Gran Turismo 7 just gave us the best ever daily race C of all time. Le Mans Circuit de la Sarthe, 6 laps on racing medium tires, dynamic weather, and day and night transition. What else can you add to it? A lot of crashes, a lot of penalties, and a lot of laughs at the paint. So if you want to stick around for the not so great version of this race, check this one out because this is going to be a good one. Right, so first race for me on this track and car combo happened on a Tuesday, and this lobby was already stacked up. So you can see some very quick names like Calster, Damien Chafe, and potentially the greatest Gran Turismo driver of all time, Mikel Sal. So I'm starting P15, and by that particular moment, I didn't really have any warm-up, any race laps, any time trial laps, nothing. I just jumped straight away into the heat just to see what I could find. And what I wasn't going to find was an apex in turn 1 straight away. So I completely overshot that corner, and Edgar right behind me is going to make very easy a pass to get into P15. So I'm just trying to follow the pack ahead to see if I can keep a line with the rest of the grid. Getting down into Tetra Rouge for the first time, I know how many penalties people can get out of this corner. And you're gonna see in this video that I actually almost fell in love with the penalties down in Tetra Rouge and plenty other corners in this track. So speeding up the Mulsanne straight, I'm just trying to avoid bomb drafting in this first race because I know how bad it could be for your safety rating. And speaking of safety rating, I almost get knocked out completely off the track at that little right kink right here at Mulsanne straight. So heading down into Mulsanne corner, breaking down, no looks on the inside from Marta Casseur. So we're good to go. Exit out of Mulsanne corner, heading into Indianapolis for the first time in this race. And I can see the pack ahead, which is very good because I just want to try to stick around as long as possible with the pack. Obviously, considering it's a pretty wet race so far, not as wet as usual, but at least intermediate wet enough. So here we are heading into the Porsche curves for the first time, and this was going to be a very tricky thing for me to figure out. So I completely overshot this track limit. Calster is going to have a very easy pass, nothing that he couldn't do already by himself without me making a mistake anyway. And now we are heading into the Ford chicane for the first time, and the Ford chicane for me is going to be something that it's going to take me a very good while to figure out. So finish that one at least untouched by penalties, which is a very good sign. And this Spanish driver right here completely launched himself into Dunlop curve straight away to try to get that position in P11. So the night is already falling down, and so is my luck with penalties and track limits, because here I was going to be able to find not actually my first penalty, but what I was able to find was a lot of oscillations from my wheel, as you can tell from my face, trying to just hang on to that wheel. And I actually had to readjust my force feedback in the middle of the race at some point and for future races. And here's going to be the first mistake that I'm going to make, and that is going to completely separate me from the rest of the pack, except for GT Turismo, who is almost a minute and 20 seconds behind me, and I have no idea what he had to go through. Completely overshot the entry of Porsche curves, but Ali loves a drink. Apparently had a little bit too many, and he found himself into something that slowed him down, so we were able to catch him up a little bit. And now heading back again to the Ford chicanes for the second time, and in this case I'm not gonna be that lucky. I actually am gonna cut that first part of the chicanes, and I'm gonna earn myself the first half-a-second penalty of this whole day, because they weren't that few. They actually were quite a lot, and you're gonna find the second one right here entering into Tetra Rouge, and I have no idea where that penalty got picked up, but I just got it stamped on, so what else could I do? So it started to dry out, and I saw a lot of people pitting and going from intermediates to slick tires, and the slick compound for this race is the medium tire. So I decided to do the same, and who am I to think that I have that ability to keep slick tires on an almost half wet track. And I'm just going now for a lot of donuts in the track with the other Spanish driver, him and I just at the pit exit, spinning around in the middle of Circuit de la Sarthe, just for the fun of it, right? So, because yeah, that's what you find. And then if you want to complement that with a little bit of sand as well, like I just did right here, that makes it a little bit of a good combo, I suppose. And just as the cherry on top, there we go, once again diving into the sand for good measure, because yeah, it's the first race that I do and I'm on slick tires in a relatively humid, wet, moist, damp track, and I have no control over what my car is doing at this moment in time. I'm just trying to survive, and even I have to put traction control on because I had little to no handling of what the car was about to do. However, this is the beauty that you get when you get combos like these. In the middle of the track, you get such a beautiful sunrise in the game. Blink and you miss it though, because it changes so quickly in lap 5 out of this combo. All of a sudden it's super bright and you don't even notice that you basically went a whole quote unquote 24 hours in this race. So yeah, just try to admire that, while I also admire a couple of spins that I launched myself into at the exit of Porsche curbs. And I think Nicholas actually realized that I went out on a crash, so he was shouting in the chat for my life. Anyway, jumping into race number 2, and again, this is another race that I still hadn't figured out too much of the track. You could see a lot of the top split drivers, very quick, fast drivers, dropping to the back of the grid. They want to try to do a sort of last to first challenge, and at least I get a pretty better launch out of the first lap and heading into Tetra Rouge for the first time once again, although I slowed down way too much at the start of that straight, and Guff right in front is going to take advantage of that position. Later on, heading into Indianapolis once again, Edgar is also going to take another position once again, and I actually cut the track quite a bit right there, so him and I are going to earn a half-second penalty exiting Arnage. So first lap, once again, another penalty that we have to sort out. However, we're not going to have to serve that until a lap later, and I completely misjudged the entry to the Porsche curves once again, slightly tapped Edgar on the entry of that corner, and then just trying to hang on for dear life while Damien makes a pass, and I'm trying to control the car, but unfortunately Lewis Burton is gonna give me a slight tap. I know it wasn't intentional, he was a lot faster, so he was just trying to get out of the way, but in doing so pushes me a little bit wide. Nothing to worry about though. I'm just gonna pit with all these people because I'm figuring if I'm right behind them, I can actually make some type of move. However, I did not check the weather radar at all, so I had no idea what compound to go with. And that's why I'm just stuck right there thinking what to do, and I'm just waiting for them to actually get out of the pits to see what they got out in. And I figured that they went out in medium tires once again, so presumably they didn't change tires. I'm gonna overshoot this track limit right there and earn myself an extra second of track limit penalties. And yeah, my expression at that point was like, well, it's already not enough punishment, so let me just collect some penalties right ahead, because apparently I end up also cutting the second part of the Fort chicane and earn myself another half a second. And so we're racking up that amount of time that we're paying off in track limit penalties. And once again, Tetra Rouge is gonna serve me with another second right there. And yeah, at that moment, you just have to laugh at your pain, don't you? There's nothing else that you could do. And once again, in the Fort chicanes, this one I didn't even try. I genuinely did not even try, because I was way too hot coming into the corner, and I completely overshot any racing line that you need to take ideally to make that corner right. So another second goes into the bank account, and let's add a little bit more to that by once again completely missing Tetra Rouge once again and adding an extra second. And yeah, at this point I'm just paying a whole restaurant bill out of track limit penalties. So all the way dead last, and at least we're gonna try to get 4 chicanes once again in this one, but it's not gonna work. There's another half a second, and for good measure, a little bit of a snap oversteer and contact with the wall. So another race thrown to the trash right there. And this one I can't even explain, because I'm already trying to figure out where the track limits are in Tertre Rouge. It's not even clear whether it's the white line or it's the curve or whatever it is. But one thing I figured out about this straight, because my wheel was oscillating a lot, in the middle of the straight, I just dropped my force feedback all the way down, and the sensation was amazing. I just needed to remember to change it one more time to my regular setting, which, as you can see, is all the way up to 10. And now I'm braking into the Mulsanne corner and about to exit, and I think my wheels are gonna clip the curb and they're gonna spin me straight away to the barrier when the fans are gonna be looking at me dead eye. Well, they shouldn't be doing, because I should be pointing the other way around. Anyway, throw that for second race to the window, and now I actually managed to put a lap in this moment, which put me on pole position to start this third race. So I was feeling a little bit confident, because by putting that lap, I already had a little better knowledge of the track. I did not. Completely overshot it and now spun into the green patch of that part of the track, and just as quick as I started pole position, that quick I went all the way to the back of the grid one more time. So whatever efforts I did to put myself with a pretty good time trial qualifying lap into a good spot in the race was completely worthless. So now we're going back into Tertre Rouge one more time, and that is going to be another penalty that we're going to rack up right there, as you're going to be able to see in the screen one more time. So yeah, if you're able to sum all the seconds that I collected in track limit penalties, let me know in the comments, because I haven't done the math and I just want to know how many are they, because at that point it just got ridiculous. So struggling once again with the Porsche curbs going all the way out of the track. That is going to add more fuel to the fire with the track limit penalties. And now we're gonna head into the 4 chicanes once again, and at least we're gonna have them right this time, because we're able to cut everything and go into the start of lap 2. A lot of people pitting at that moment in time, so we managed to climb up to P10, and now I'm gonna bump draft Shady right ahead of me, which already had a 1 second penalty. We're gonna take the position away from him, and we're gonna try to head over to try and chase Elias, which is another very fast driver. So by saying that I'm gonna try to chase him, it literally just means I'm gonna do my best to not be too far away from it. But we're gonna pit in lap 2 just to change back to a new set of intermediate tires, because the ones that I started with were completely cooked by the point that I entered the pits due to the dry track at the start of the race. We're going to serve this half a second penalty that once again I picked up at Tertre Rouge. I just didn't show it because, yeah, by that point it was already pointless. You already knew that was kind of going to happen. That was already on your bingo card. And we're going to go once again into the 4 chicane, see if we can get it right this time. And yes, we did. We actually managed to get it right. And we're going to put a very solid lap on lap 4 to go into P7, which so far has been our best result and our best track position. And here we're gonna have a little bit of a visit from my girlfriend. Actually just give me a little bit of support and love, knowing that I was struggling so much to stay on the track so far in this race, and a little bit of words of encouragement right there. So one thing though, don't say anything about her robe. Message delivered from her, otherwise she's gonna meet you in the comments with a lot of feistiness. And she means it. So we get into lap 5, start of the final lap of the race, and I found myself in P6, which was unbelievable by judging the start of the performance in this track and car combo that I had in my first few races. So now, knowing that my intermediates are almost cooked, I'm trying to chase as much of a wet line that I can find to keep them cool and to keep them going for the remainder of the race. Heading into Indianapolis one more time and about to break into our notch to see if we can get a good exit out of here. A little bit of an overshot and acceleration, and the curb says you're not going anywhere. You're gonna get into the wall straight away, going right into a straight line, as Steve Super GT would say. Subpar racing line, subpar strategy right there. So in the end, we're gonna get past from that crash, and then Racing Leon is also gonna capitalize later on my slowdown, and he's gonna get into P7. But at least we managed to finish in the middle of the grid by this point. P8 so far, our best result in this track and car combo. Little bit of a late break. I wasn't really going for any moves right there. I was just trying to follow a line to not destabilize myself too much. And now let's jump into race number 4 for this video, which started with a lot of rain right there, but still not as much to consider a heavy wet compound. We're starting P2 since Marcos in front of me actually had a better lap, and I think it was literally for just like 20 milliseconds or something. So we're gonna head into turn one more time, right into the Dunlop core curve. Excuse my English right there. For some reason, I just got tongue twisted. I think it's all the track penalties, track limit penalties that are making me forget how to speak already. So here we go once again into Tetra Rouge, and this so far has been definitely our best start of a race, where we managed to get all the way through the first sector of the track and not rack technically any mistakes or any track limit penalties or anything of that sort. The mistake is going to come from Marcos though, where he's going to overshoot Indianapolis, and now we're going to find ourselves in the lead of the race for the first time since trying this track and car combo. And do not count the one that I started on pole, because essentially I just threw that away straight away into turn 1 anyway. So here we go, lap 2. It's getting dark and we're jumping out of Tetra Rouge one more time in 4th gear this time, when I'm already getting a little bit more familiar with how to take all the different corners. And Marcos is actually going to help us with a little bit of bump drafting down the Mulsanne straight, which is going to push us away from the rest of the pack. Not for long though. At least we managed to get a good break out of Mulsanne corner, except for the exit where we have a little bit of a snap, but we managed to rescue it and keep the car on the track. So once again into Indianapolis, lap 2. Exiting out of Indianapolis again, once a little bit of snapping, and now breaking into our notch. And here we go with the exit one more time, and damn it, that curb once again making the tackle of the car, putting it against the wall. And yeah, it was just turning into a common habit now for that curb. Anytime that it was a little wet, it would just spin me out and completely throw me into the wall. So overshooting the perch curbs, track limits one more time, earning us a half a second penalty. And here I'm gonna brake way too late into the pit entry, and in an attempt not to completely destroy Goody in front of us, we sacrifice our own race and trying to get into the pits, but the car is spinning way too much, trying to get it in reverse, and we get reset back into the track with a pit lane cutting penalty of 3 seconds added to more track limits, which would add 4 seconds in total. And I was just in disbelief, and I could only laugh. I literally could only laugh. We stayed there so long that Goody came out of the pits, and I wasn't even across the pit exit lane, which was insanely crazy. So let's go to the last race of this track, where Marcos is not going to have the right compound of tires into such a wet race, and he's going to dive himself straight into the sand, or at least that's what I think. So now we recover into P2 at the start of race number 5, right behind Sparks, aka Sparks Theory, which is an amazing streamer, driver, and Gran Turismo content creator. Really respect the work that he puts in for the community that he's built so far, and I really respect the work that I'm putting in for all the track limit penalties that I racked up. So I'm gonna get myself right behind Sparks' slipstream, but you're gonna see how the whole bunch of super fast drivers is gonna just sneak in from the right hand side, trying to almost 5 cars about to come ahead, and they're gonna swerve past us. So I'm gonna try to bump draft Sparks to see if we can at least stay in the same pack of almost 9 drivers, which are gonna be separated by less than 0.3 of a second. And now we're gonna head into this slight kink of Mulsanne Straight that's gonna completely unleash some chaos and destruction right here, because someone knocked someone out. Ping pong effects, and Calster was the one that ended up getting the worst part of it when he got completely thrown around in the tarmac and pushed all the way to the back by Nicholas, accidentally, I would believe. So now we're trying just to sneak right within Iceman's proximity. Iceman, first time that I actually race with Iceman, I think, and one of the top fastest drivers in the game for sure. This track and car combo was just loaded by most of the top split drivers, so it was just the challenge in itself to try to stay with them, let alone trying to get my car in the tarmac with a very wet race. So now we're just trying to follow around Nicholas and the Italian driver right here, but Nicholas is gonna get pulled into the wall, and now I got a little bit of damage in my front bumper and front right tire, which Damon is going to capitalize on, and I'm just going to not make it any more difficult to anybody that needs to pass at this point, because it would just become a risky situation for me to try to defend anything right there. Turismo and Heat on 93 are going to go past it. I'm completely going to cut the Fort chicanes one more time, and now I also am going to get a little bit of a spin because of the bounce of the car and trying to accelerate at the same time, plus another 1 second penalty for good measure, as if it wasn't enough. And now we're just going into lap 2. At least we caught up with a little bit of the pack ahead. We're already on the heavy wets, so we have enough to survive the moisture of the track as it is. And I'm just trying to keep the car right on the track. A little bit of traction control to help me with the wheel spins, because the track was so slippery and wet at this point in time that trying to accelerate off the corners was quite tricky. Heat on, however, he's gonna find himself right into the sand pit after the Dunlop curves. So we're gonna capitalize on P2 virtually, not realistically or mathematically, since I have not pitted yet. And this is gonna be a very weird sight to have a purple sector at the start of lap 3. Thing that I have not seen whatsoever in the last couple of days. So Nicholas and Consta now, they're gonna pop through the right hand side on the straight after Mulsanne corner, and again, I'm just not gonna try to make it too difficult because they're of course way faster drivers, even though Nicholas had a 1 second penalty right there. And Heat-On is also gonna capitalize from my mistake trying to break into the start of Indianapolis. So I'm just gonna sneak right behind all these 3 drivers, or 4 drivers actually, because Grove Street is also right in front of us, and I believe he has 1 second penalty to serve. So we're gonna pass Grove Street into the way of lap 3 to about to get into the pits one more time. And now the thing that I'm gonna do is just completely cut Fort Chicane one more time, and I cannot think of how many times I've said that same phrase, and it's gonna be so bad that it's gonna put us with another 2 second penalty straight away. So, and again put a bit of a cherry on top, another half a second penalty from Tetra Root right there. And yeah, I just didn't have enough faces to react towards all the penalties that we were racking up. And now all the way down Mulsanne straight into a little bit of a speed up, because you're gonna see this train of cars just passing through with the help of slipstreaming and bump drafting. right in front, 4 cars that just completely flew by my presence as a sitting duck in the straight with no assistance or help from any other drivers, and with a 2.5 second penalty amount to serve. So not looking great at this point of the track and at this point of the race in the middle of lap 4. We're gonna serve that penalty, and Sat Tomato Jr., aka also Brown Banana, and Damien are gonna fly by, with VQS Truly as well right behind, just waiting for me to make a mistake like this one and sneak into P9 himself. And this was also my time to head into the pit lane, because it was already stopping of the rain, and the wet tires weren't gonna serve the purpose anymore as they should have. So it was a good time to just change into the intermediates to finish the race, and that's exactly what we're gonna do at the end of lap 4. Coming out of lap 5, and sunrise again once striking one more time, and yeah, you just see how the sun is popping out from the Dunlop curve bridge right there, or the banner. And because of all those penalties, we're just gonna find ourselves into P16. So nothing to do really. I mean, with the amount of seconds that I racked up between penalties and just making mistakes and slipping around the track on certain corner exits, and the mistake that I actually did on lap 1, it was no surprise that I was gonna find myself at the bottom, except for the fact that Sparks had to pit, and Sparks now was at the bottom of the pile, or the bottom of the grid. So I can fight P14 with the Greek guy, but I just didn't feel like it. And I just thought, let me just wait for Sparks. Let's finish the race at least close to each other, so we can have a little bit of fun on the last lap. So I'm gonna speed this up while I just literally wait on the Mulsanne straight for Sparks to pop into the rear view mirror. And I'm gonna swerve a little bit just to distract him while I can, and I'm gonna let him by, and I'm just gonna tuck into his slipstream, going down the end of Mulsanne straight. And I was just having fun at this point. I mean, to be fair, the races didn't go as planned, but that doesn't change my opinion about this track and car combo being potentially the best that Gran Turismo Sport Mode has seen so far. Little bit of contact out of the Mulsanne corner between us, so I'm just not gonna fight it too much. I'm gonna let Sparks just keep going in front of me. Now we're heading out of Arnage, where he's gonna exit the corner and almost spinning out, but I'm gonna give him a little helping hand by pushing him off in the track to keep going forward. And yeah, the end result didn't really matter at this time. It was only about finishing the race with a little bit of fun. So that's it, guys. That's what I have for you. If you really enjoyed all that crashing and all that penalty racking, then make sure to keep watching a video right here.